You ever get that feeling that something's about to happen, but you can't explain why? Like the air gets thicker, the silence stretches a little too long, and your heartbeat starts keeping time with something unseen. You tell yourself it's nothing, that life is just moving on as usual, but deep down, there's a whisper, a tension you can't name. Something's shifting, rearranging, preparing. It's almost funny how you think you're in control, making plans, setting goals, following your routine, while somewhere far beyond your reach, something's being written about you. And when it arrives, it won't knock. It'll just step in and change everything before you even realize what's happened. You think life follows your plan, don't you? You think if you stay focused, stay disciplined, stay good, everything will unfold the way you pictured it. But it doesn't, because the universe knows something far greater than that has a way of reminding you who's really in charge. You wake up one day expecting routine, normalcy, predictability, and instead something shifts. A door closes without warning. A voice reaches you out of nowhere. A message arrives that doesn't make sense yet feels heavier than anything you've heard before. That's how destiny moves. It doesn't come with a calendar invitation or a polite knock. It shows up unannounced, rewriting your script in ink you never approved of. The unexpected isn't chaos, it's coordination from a place you can't see. Every delay, every detour, every unanswered prayer was a setup for this moment. You thought the silence meant you were forgotten. You thought the stillness meant nothing was happening. But behind the curtain, something was forming, something you weren't supposed to understand yet, because if you did, you'd ruin it trying to control it. That's the trick about destiny. It doesn't need your comprehension, only your presence. It doesn't explain itself before it delivers its blow or its blessing. It just acts. And all you can do is feel it unfold, powerless but alive, watching a plan you didn't write start taking shape right in front of you. The most dangerous illusion is thinking you know what's next. You don't. None of us do. You build walls of logic and patterns to protect yourself, pretending you're ready for whatever's coming. But you're not. You never are. Because the unexpected doesn't announce itself, it invades. It tears down your comfort and exposes your weakness. But that exposure, that shock, that panic you feel when everything you know collapses, that's when you meet what was meant for you. That's when the divine shows its hand. It uses surprise as a scalpel, cutting away the illusion that you were ever steering this ship. Every twist is precision. Every interruption is instruction. Every sudden turn is a message disguised as madness. You ever notice how things fall apart right before something new begins? That's not coincidence, that's structure. That's the divine algorithm at work, breaking what was never built to last so it can give you something stronger, truer, untamed. But because it doesn't ask, it feels cruel. You scream, you question, you fight, thinking it's punishment. It's not. It's movement. It's the storm rearranging your path, removing people, shifting circumstances, breaking you open so the next chapter has room to exist. The pain you feel in the moment is just proof that destiny is active. It's not out to destroy you, it's clearing space for what was written long before you tried to write your own story. When the unexpected strikes, you'll recognize it not by sound or sight, but by the feeling deep inside your chest, the one that says, "This means something." It won't make sense to anyone else. It's not meant to. It's a private language between you and the divine, a signal that you're stepping into alignment. The things you lose, the people who walk away, The sudden endings, they're all signatures of something being orchestrated for your good, even if your eyes can't see it yet. Destiny always hides in the ordinary before it explodes into the extraordinary. That's why you can't ignore that chill that runs through you when something unexpected happens. That's not fear, it's recognition. And here's the beautiful, twisted part. The unexpected doesn't just happen to you, it happens times for times you. It's not random, it's refinement. It's not chaos, it's choreography. You'll only understand it when you look back, when the pattern reveals itself in perfect symmetry, and you'll realize it had to happen exactly this way. The closed doors, the rejections, the interruptions, they were alignment in disguise. You didn't fail, you were being redirected. You didn't lose, you were being prepared. That's how destiny works. It doesn't explain itself while it's moving. It just moves. And when it's done, you'll see that every unexpected moment was a carefully timed invitation to the life that was waiting for you all along. The unexpected is not your enemy, it's your evidence. It's the proof that something bigger than you is watching, calculating, guiding, making sure you end up exactly where you're supposed to be. You'll try to resist it. You'll fight to keep control. But the more you struggle, the more you'll realize control was never the point. The point was surrender. To see the beauty in the interruption. To feel the power in the unknown. To understand that what's coming isn't here to break you. It's here to become you. You spend your whole life thinking you're running the show. You plan, you predict, you prepare. You move with this illusion that time belongs to you, that life bends to your schedule, that destiny will politely wait until you're ready. But it doesn't. Because divine timing doesn't knock, doesn't ask, doesn't care if, as you're comfortable. It simply decides. It moves when it's time, and when it does, nothing you do can stop it. You could cry, resist, or plead, but when the moment is chosen, it will unfold whether you like it or not. That's the part no one tells you. The universe doesn't consult you before changing everything. It just does. And that's what terrifies people, the lack of control, the idea that something beyond your reach can decide when your story shifts. But there's a strange beauty in that loss of control, isn't there? Because it means you're part of something bigger, something with its own rhythm, its own pulse, its own sense of timing. You think delay means denial, but it doesn't. It just means preparation. You think silence means abandonment, but it's not. It's calibration. The divine doesn't rush because it doesn't have to. It knows exactly when the stage is set, when the pieces align, when the timing will make impact rather than noise. You want it now, but you wouldn't survive it now. That's why it waits. There's a reason certain doors didn't open when you banged on them. There's a reason some opportunities slipped through your fingers, why some people left, why some moments passed without explanation, because you weren't supposed to have them yet. You would have broken under the weight of what you were begging for. You think waiting is punishment, but it's protection. Every not yet was keeping you from walking into something you weren't ready to handle. The delay wasn't cruelty, it was mercy in disguise. You didn't see it, you couldn't understand it, but time was being shaped around you, holding things in place until you could meet them with strength instead of desperation. You ever notice how when it finally happens, it happens all at once? The phone call, the message, the opportunity, the revelation, it crashes in like a storm, everything changing overnight. That's not coincidence. That's the divine timeline catching up to your growth. It doesn't happen gradually because destiny doesn't unfold in comfort. It erupts in precision. It waits for you to shed enough fear, to learn enough pain, to let go of enough control. And when you finally do, when you've surrendered enough of the illusion that you run the clock, that's when it strikes. Because divine timing only activates when your spirit aligns with readiness, not when your ego demands arrival. People call it luck, fate, coincidence. But there's no such thing. There's only timing, the right conversation at the right second, the right heartbreak that opens the right door, the right delay that saves you from the wrong disaster. Everything moves with intention, even the things that feel chaotic. Every closed door, every unanswered call, every lost moment, it's all choreography. You're just not the one conducting the orchestra. The divine doesn't need your schedule. It just needs your patience. Because the moment it moves, the moment it speaks, the moment it decides, everything you thought you lost starts finding its way back to you. And you know what's funny? When divine timing finally steps in, you won't even recognize it at first. You'll think it's random. You'll think it's small. Maybe it's a single sentence, a sudden encounter, an unexpected shift that feels too ordinary to be sacred. But that's how it works. It hides inside what looks like coincidence, disguising destiny as something accidental. And when it unfolds fully, you'll realize every delay, every detour, every sleepless night was perfectly placed. You weren't waiting for the right moment. The right moment was waiting for you to become the right person. There's something almost cruel about how precise it is. Just when you've given up, just when you've stopped expecting, just when you've made peace with the silence, that's when it moves. That's when the message comes. That's when the opportunity appears out of nowhere. Because it's not your plan, it's a divine interruption. It's the universe saying now, and you'll feel it in your bones. It won't be logical, it won't make sense, but it will feel inevitable. Like it was always supposed to happen this way. Because it was. It always is. Divine timing doesn't ask for your permission because it already knows your story's end long before you ever begin to understand its beginning. You think change comes softly, like a sunrise, that it'll tap you on the shoulder, give you a warning, a sign, some comfort before it tears everything apart. But it doesn't. Real change doesn't whisper, it hits. It blindsides you when you're not looking, when you think you've finally found your balance, when your life feels predictable enough to breathe again. That's when the ground shakes. That's when the divine decides to pull the rug. You call it unfair, unexpected, cruel. But maybe it's the only way to wake you up. Because if you were comfortable, you'd never move, you'd never grow, you'd never find out who you really are underneath all the pretending. Sudden change isn't chaos, it's revelation. It's the universe peeling away the parts of your life that were never meant to stay. You think you lost something important, but maybe it was poison disguised as comfort. You think you were rejected, but maybe you were redirected. Change doesn't wait for your consent, because if it did, you'd never say yes. You'd cling to the familiar, to the predictable, to the illusion of control. So it takes instead, it removes, it breaks what you refuse to release. It's not cruel, it's corrective. It's a force that sees the full picture while you're too busy staring at one broken piece. You don't have to understand it for it to make sense. You ever notice how everything falls apart right before something new begins? That's not a coincidence. That's structure. That's the way divine energy works. It dismantles before it rebuilds. You can't construct a new life on old foundations. The demolition has to come first. So when everything around you starts collapsing, when the plans fall through, when people disappear, don't mistake that for loss. That's rearrangement. That's timing, pulling apart what no longer aligns with your next chapter. The pain you feel isn't the end, it's the tearing of old skin before the new one grows. You can't evolve without shedding. But here's the funny thing about sudden change: it doesn't care about your comfort. It's indifferent to your emotions. It doesn't apologize for its timing. It doesn't explain itself. It just arrives and rewrites everything in silence. And when it does, you'll feel disoriented, even betrayed. You'll question why it had to happen now, why you weren't warned, why everything you trusted fell apart in a single breath. That confusion is sacred. It's the moment between endings and beginnings. It's the pause where you're forced to let go, not because you want to, but because you have no other choice. That's where growth hides, in the in-between, in the space where nothing makes sense yet. Change always arrives dressed like disaster. It comes wearing the face of heartbreak, loss, failure, confusion. But underneath that disguise, it's carrying your freedom. You don't see it yet because your mind is still attached to what used to be. You're grieving the version of yourself that fit into old rooms, old dreams, old relationships. But those things can't hold you anymore. That's why they had to go. The divine doesn't remove things from your life to punish you. It does it to reveal what was restricting you. Every sudden shift is an act of liberation disguised as loss. You just haven't adjusted your eyes to see it that way yet. And when it finally hits you, when you start realizing that the chaos was coordination, that the loss was alignment, that the change was mercy, you'll feel something strange. A kind of peace that doesn't make sense, because deep down, something in you will recognize the pattern. You'll see that the divine never takes without purpose. It never rearranges without intention. You were never being broken. You were being built in a way only pressure could create. Every sudden change was shaping the edges of your soul to fit perfectly into a future you couldn't imagine yet. The pain wasn't punishment, it was precision. You'll reach a point where you stop asking why now and start whispering, of course now. Because you'll realize everything that fell apart did so exactly on time. The people who left, the plans that failed, the sudden endings, they weren't random. They were synchronization. You were being positioned, trained, stripped, refined. You weren't being destroyed. You were being adjusted. The universe doesn't care about convenience. It cares about alignment. And when it decides to move, when it decides to shake your life like a snow globe, it's not asking for permission. It's announcing transformation. Sudden change isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to show you how alive you really are when the script burns and you finally start living without one. You ever notice how right before something incredible happens, everything seems to fall apart? The walls close in. The air gets heavier. The silence gets too loud. You start thinking it's the end, that maybe you've run out of strength, that maybe this time the light won't come back on. But that's the trick, isn't it? Darkness always tries to convince you it's permanent. It whispers that it's stronger, that you'll never get out. But the truth, hiding behind that illusion, is simple. Darkness is loudest right before it dies. It fights hardest when it's losing, because it knows what's coming. It knows the dawn is close. When everything starts collapsing around you, you think you're being punished. You think the universe forgot your name, that heaven went quiet, that all your prayers got lost in translation. But what if this isn't punishment? What if it's transition? What if all that heaviness, all that exhaustion, is just the final stretch before the breakthrough? See, people forget that the darkest part of the night isn't the middle, it's the moment right before sunrise. That last hour where it feels unbearable, where you can't see any sign of change, where your mind tells you it's over. That's when the shift begins, hidden in silence, preparing to erupt in light. The human heart has this strange habit of mistaking struggle for failure. You fall apart, and you assume that's the end of your story. But what if falling apart was the only way for what's real to emerge? What if everything that broke was never meant to survive your next chapter? You've been clinging to things, to people, to identities that couldn't handle your growth. And when the divine decided it was time to elevate you, it had to strip those things away. That stripping hurts. It feels cruel. It feels lonely. But it's necessary. Because the dawn can't arrive if you're still holding hands with the night. There's something beautiful about breaking points. They're honest. They expose who you are without the masks, without the pretending, without the noise. When you hit rock bottom, there's no room left for performance. You see yourself clearly, raw and trembling, and that's where transformation begins. Because pain doesn't just reveal, it refines. It burns away what's fake. It silences your distractions. It humbles your ego. It teaches you to listen to something deeper, something eternal. And that's when the light starts sneaking back in. Not loud, not sudden, but steady. Like it never really left, it just waited for you to notice. You see, darkness isn't an enemy. It's a messenger. It doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to strip away illusions. It teaches you patience, endurance, faith. It forces you to find strength in places you never looked before. Without it, you'd never appreciate the light. Without it, you'd never learn gratitude. The divine uses the dark not to punish, but to prepare. It isolates you so you can hear. It breaks you so you can rebuild properly. It blinds you so you stop looking outward and start seeing within. The longer the night, the brighter the dawn waiting behind it. That's the pattern. That's the rhythm. And you know what's funny? When the dawn finally comes, it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It's quiet, subtle. It slips in unnoticed at first, like a secret. You'll be so used to the dark that you won't even realize it's getting lighter. The weight will start lifting slowly, the silence will soften, and for a moment you'll think nothing has changed. But it has. Everything has. Because you endured, because you stayed, because you didn't give up when you had every reason to. That's when the divine moves, right after the breaking, right after the tears, right after the silence stretches too far. That's when the light takes over, quietly but completely. The truth is, darkness never wins. It can't. It's temporary by design. It only exists to make you notice the light. And every time it shows up, it's because something in you is about to shift again, evolve again, rise again. You might not see it yet, but the universe does. It's rearranging the pieces, preparing the stage, clearing out what doesn't belong. And while you sit there thinking it's over, it's actually just beginning. The night screams the loudest when the dawn is about to break. And that scream, that pressure, that silence, it's proof that the light has already started its way back to you. It's strange, isn't it? How silence can be louder than any scream. You sit there, surrounded by nothing but your thoughts, and suddenly the quiet starts to echo. Every regret, every mistake, every word you wish you could take back, they all start talking at once. And you can't run from it, can you? Because it's not coming from outside, it's coming from you. That's the part people don't understand. The real battles are never fought in public. They happen in the dark corners of your own mind. That's where wars are won or lost, where you face the version of yourself you've been avoiding all this time. Pain has a peculiar sense of humor. It waits until you think you've escaped, until you start to feel normal again. Then it shows up, knocks on the door, and whispers, "Remember me." And it's not there to haunt you. No, it's there to remind you. To remind you what you survived, what you learned, what you still need to heal. But most people don't listen. They try to numb it, bury it, laugh it away. But pain isn't meant to be buried, it's meant to be understood. You can't heal what you refuse to face. And the longer you pretend it's gone, the deeper it hides inside you, reshaping you into something unrecognizable. You see, the divine doesn't let pain visit without purpose. It's never random. There's always a reason behind the ache. Sometimes it's to wake you up, sometimes to break your pride, sometimes to prepare you for something you wouldn't understand yet. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss, it's part of the sculpting process. You're being carved into something new. But carving hurts, doesn't it? You lose pieces of yourself. You bleed in silence. You start questioning everything. And yet, through that chaos, something beautiful begins to form. The parts of you that remain after the breaking, they're the parts that were meant to stay all along. And isn't it funny how we beg for strength but curse the process that builds it? You pray for courage, and life gives you fear to conquer. You ask for growth, and it gives you pain to endure. You ask for peace, and it hands you chaos so you can learn balance. It's never direct. It's never easy. Because if it were, you wouldn't learn a thing. The divine doesn't reward the comfortable, it shapes the unbreakable. It tests you until you finally stop pretending and start transforming. Until the pain becomes your teacher and the storm becomes your ally. There's a shift that happens when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That's the moment everything changes. Because the truth is, life isn't out to get you, it's out to grow you. Every challenge, every delay, every closed door, it's part of the blueprint. But when you're in it, it feels cruel. You can't see the design yet. All you feel is the loss, the confusion, the waiting. And in that waiting, the divine does its best work. That's when your faith is built. Not when everything makes sense, but when nothing does and you choose to trust anyway. People think faith is about seeing signs, but no. Faith is about walking blind. It's about moving when there's no light, no promise, no proof, just a whisper that tells you to keep going. That whisper is everything. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's persistent. It's what keeps you breathing when you want to give up. It's what keeps your heart beating when your world stops making sense. That's the divine speaking in its purest form, not through miracles, but through endurance. It doesn't shout, it watches. It doesn't rush, it times. It doesn't explain, it reveals. And when the revelation finally comes, it's never what you expect. It's quieter, simpler. You'll wake up one day and realize the pain doesn't sting anymore. The memory is still there, but it doesn't own you. The scars remain, but they've turned into stories. The tears you once cursed have watered something deep inside you, a strength you never knew you had. That's when it all makes sense. That's when you see that none of it was wasted. Every breakdown was building something. Every delay was divine timing. Every loss was divine redirection. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. That's how the divine works. It hides blessings in pain, lessons in loss, wisdom in wounds. You think it's cruel, but it's merciful. You think it's over, but it's beginning. You think you've been forgotten, but you've been chosen for refinement. And that's the beauty of it all. The process that almost destroyed you is the same one that revealed who you truly are. And the moment you realize that, you stop fearing pain and start understanding that even the darkness was part of the plan all along. There comes a point when even the silence feels heavy, when you've cried enough to fill oceans that no one ever sees, when you've tried to explain your pain to people who only nod because they'll never really understand. You start to feel like you're stuck in a loop. Same faces, same words, same empty nights. You think maybe this is it. Maybe this is what life is supposed to feel like now. But that's the trick, isn't it? The moment you start to believe it will always hurt, something shifts. You don't even notice it at first. A strange calm creeps in, a quiet you can breathe in for the first time. That's not weakness. That's the release you didn't know was coming. Because at some point, the universe steps in. It looks at you, at everything you've carried, and it decides you've had enough. The weight you've been dragging, the burden that's been breaking your back, it starts to loosen. You don't drop it all at once, but you start realizing you don't need to hold everything anymore. That's the moment divine intervention slips through the cracks of your pain, not with thunder, not with miracles, but with release. Sometimes it's not about winning. Sometimes it's about surrendering to what's already written for you. You see, people think strength means never breaking, never crying, never letting go. But real strength, it's different. It's when you stop fighting battles that were never meant for you. It's when you understand that holding on too long doesn't make you brave. It makes you tired. There's power in letting go, in saying enough. The divine doesn't ask you to destroy yourself in the name of endurance. It asks you to trust that there's purpose in your breaking. And when the pain becomes unbearable, that's usually when the lesson's almost done. You don't realize it yet, but the end of your suffering is already in motion. There's something sacred about the moment right before the breakthrough. It's quiet, suffocating, almost unbearable. You start questioning everything. Why isn't it changing? Why isn't it ending? But that's exactly how it's supposed to feel before it turns, because the soul doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in pressure, in silence, in waiting. You're being reshaped, refined, stripped of what no longer belongs. And when the divine sees that you're finally ready to stop clinging to what's hurting you, it releases what's been trapped. Sometimes that means peace. Sometimes it means closure. Sometimes it means the end of a storm that was never meant to destroy you, only to change you.